So today we're going to be doing a showcase on the husbando WELT. He is a 5-star imaginary unit, guys, and he specializes in controlling the enemy unit's combat and also debuffing the enemy. Now, control units are really strong, guys, in turn-based games most of the time, and I'll tell you why. But before we move on, guys, I'd appreciate if you guys subscribe to the channel, like the video if you like the video, and share this around. Now, one of the main reasons why controllers are so strong in turn-based games is because there is such thing as a turn meter, guys. One of the main things that controllers like to do is manipulate this turn meter, or turn bar, whatever you want to call it. But essentially what they do is, if the enemy is about to take a turn, you can actually delay their action or push them back, in other terms, so they won't take their turn, which is very strong, and it's considered a form of turn manipulation, where you can actually dictate if you like to delay the enemy's action and push them further back in the turn meter or not. And this makes it very strong, because not only does this push the enemy back and it delays their turn and it takes longer for them to go ahead and take their move, it prevents you guys from taking damage or being CC'd, and it also helps your allies go forward and do damage and all that good stuff, so you can potentially take out the enemy or CC them. So now you guys see why turn manipulation is very strong here. He does get that from his ultimate though, but before we get into his ultimate though, I do want to talk about his first skill that you have to use a skill point on, and that is his E. And his E is called Edge of Void, and what this does is it hits 3 random targets for a certain amount of attack, and it has a chance of slowing the enemy and applying a speed down debuff on them by 10%, which is very helpful in this game. If the enemy's speed is down, it's going to take longer for them to take their turn, so that's really good. Again, controllers love to control the battlefield, and this is one of the reasons why WELT is so good. Let me go ahead and show you the animation here, how it looks, guys. Remember, it's not guaranteed for you to proc the speed down buff. It is a 66% chance in the beginning, but I'm guessing when you level it up more, it becomes more of a guarantee. So let's go ahead and see how this looks. Okay, and then he applied slow on them, and now the slow debuff can get resisted because it is a debuff, so you're going to want to build WELT with a good amount of effect hit rate, is because enemies can resist those debuffs, and it's very nice for WELT to land those speed downs. And when the enemy has the speed down debuff on them, he's going to go ahead and do more damage, because it's actually part of his passive here called Time Distortion, and it's just his talent, guys. It's like I said, it's a passive, and it says if the enemy hit is already slow, deal an additional imaginary damage by 33% of WELT's attack. So this not only helps control the battlefield, it also boosts WELT's damage, because he definitely isn't no chump in doing damage, guys. And for you guys to know if the debuff was applied or not, you can see it right here on top of the enemy's bar that you're targeting, if the debuff was applied. So we did apply it. Remember, the E is very random, so you don't know who it's actually going to hit. Now, the one good thing about having a random targeting attack like this is that, yes, it is random, so that's the downside to it. You'll never know who you hit. But the upside is that when it becomes a single target unit, you're actually going to guarantee hit that unit 3 times. And what I've come to notice is that when you have multiple hitting moves, is in this game especially, is if the enemy has a break bar and they're weak to your typing, like for example, if they're weak to imaginary, you're gonna hit them 3 times, so that's gonna help shred the break meter bar. So that's gonna help a lot. So you could potentially build WELT to be like a breaker, or you can build him to be more of a control pseudo damage dealer, right? So yeah, that's a plus side for that. Okay, so here's an example of that. This enemy's by himself. He is not weak to us, but either way, it doesn't become random anymore. So here's how that looks. Boom, right? And now also the thing about that too is, because you're hitting them 3 times, you're highering the probability chance of you proccing that speed down buff on them. So as you guys can see, that can be very well used to break a unit or to apply that debuff even more, right? And another thing it's good at is, because you're solely just focusing on that one unit, you're just going to be doing more damage to that unit, because it's going to hit them all 3 times. Okay, and the time we've all been waiting for, guys, we're going to do his ultimate here called Synthetic Black Hole. Now this does AoE damage and it hits everybody, and it has a 100% chance of proccing imprisonment, guys. Now what imprisonment does, it delays the enemy's action by 33%, and it procs speed down on the enemy unit. Imprisonment is basically you delaying the enemy's turn, where it's going to push them back 33% on the turn meter. So let me go ahead and show you guys that. Let's proc his ultimate, and this is how it looks. These guys are actually weak to imaginary, so that's really, really good. So you guys will see this in action, so check this out. As you guys can see in the turn meter right here, it does say that they will get pushed back some, and then Natasha was able to skip the line or something. So check this out.
Or be destroyed. There is no other choice.
Boom. And there you go. These guys got pushed back even more, right? So it's kind of nuts, right, guys? So they're in this state where it's basically just showing that they did get their turn pushed back. And now because they're imprisoned, right, guys, that means they are also slowed as well. Their speed is reduced and their action is reduced. So you guys know what that means. Because of his passive, he's gonna be able to do even more damage because they're slow. Here we go. Yep. Pretty decent damage, right? It was pretty random, but still, imagine if that was just a single target, he would do even more damage. He is great at controlling the battlefield and just helping your enemies be able to take turns and stuff, and pushing the enemies back and messing around with their speed and stuff. And he does a decent amount of damage as well. Now once their turn does come around, guys, once they're done with the imprisonment, they will take their turn. It's not a complete stun, it's just basically just them being slowed and them having their action delayed, guys. So also another thing to know, guys, is that when you do break an enemy that is weak to imaginary, you will get the imprisonment on them. We got the imprisonment here because he ulted, but you will also proc the imprisonment just if you apply weakness break to an enemy that's weak to imaginary. And of course, for his basic attack, guys, it's just a single target imaginary damage dealing move that does damage, and that's how that looks. And this is how it looks when you break an enemy with imaginary.
Stand down.
They will just get imprisoned. And now this is how proccing his E ability on someone that's weak to imaginary will look, and look how much he will shred the enemy's break. This is only taking account to him getting one hit in, but it's not accounting all the hits. So check this out. Yep. There it is. Now to take a look at his traces, guys. His traces is basically just upgrading his talents, but there's these special nodes that add 3 unique abilities to the allies. These ones in the middle are just upgrades to your abilities. So let's go over the first one. So the first bonus ability is called Retribution, and it increases WELT's ultimate damage by 25%. That's nice. More damage is always good. And then the second one is called Punishment, and this one deals 20% more damage to enemies inflicted with weakness break. So that's good. Even more damage for WELT. Like I said, he's like a pseudo controller and damage dealer as well. And the WELT that I have is not even built as much, so he has a lot of potential to do even more damage, guys. This is just an early game WELT build. And then for his last bonus ability, we have Judgment, and using WELT's ultimate additionally regenerates 10 energy, so he can go ahead and keep proccing those imprisonments and just manipulating the enemy's turn. And now to the juicy stuff, guys. We have his Eidolon, which basically is like Constellation from Genshin Impact, or the duplicate system if you feed that duplicate into this character. Now the first one, we have Legacy of Honor. What this does is that WELT's abilities are enhanced for the next 2 times he uses his basic attack or skill, so it'll just do more damage on top of whatever it's doing. And then for his E2, guys, we have Conflux of Stars, and what this does is when his talent is triggered, WELT regenerates 3 energy. So when you're doing damage to an enemy that's already slowed, he's gonna give himself even more energy. Now if you proc his E on something, it's considered as separate hits. So I'm guessing you'll get a total of 9 energy if you proc your E on a single person that has slow. And then for his E3 is just his abilities getting leveled up. And then on his E4, we have Appellation of Justice. And what this does is when using WELT's ultimate, there's a 100% base chance to increase the damage received by the target by 12% for 2 turns. So it's an extra 12% increase to his ultimate damage, so even more damage. And it's AoE, guys. So on his E5, he just has his abilities getting leveled up. And then for his E6, we got Prospect of Brilliance, and when using WELT's skill, deals damage for 1 additional time to a random enemy. So now not only will his E just proc 3 times, now it'll go up to 4, which means more chances to apply that speed debuff and more damage and more breakage potential. Now the light cone that this person was using was called Loop, and what this does is it increases damage dealt from its wear to slowed enemies by 24%, which is nice. He does always apply slow with his imprisonment, and on his E just the basic slow that he also applies as well. And this is a 3-star light cone, and this goes very, very well with him. So there you have it, guys. WELT is an amazing controlling unit and is a great pickup for any team. And he's the only 5-star imaginary unit that we have right now. So he's going to be of great use to go against those bosses that are going to be weak to imaginary. And the fact that he's able to bring that control factor and do damage on top of that as well. WELT is a great unit, guys, and plus his style is great too. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on WELT, guys. Let me know down below in the comment section, and I will see you guys in the next one. It's your boy Jada. I'm out. Peace. I almost forgot to mention his technique, guys, which is what you proc before going into the battle. And what he does is he creates a black hole zone that lasts for 15 seconds, and enemies who enter this area have their movement speed slowed by 50%, which is huge. So his technique already sounds pretty broken. And then upon entering battle in the black hole zone, there's a 100% chance for the enemies to become imprisoned. And when the enemies become imprisoned, you guys already know the deal. So this is kind of nuts. His technique just makes him that much better, right, guys? So yeah, I just wanted to include that in. But all right, this time I'm out. Peace.